Sides. There's a whole three people over here. You think you can handle both sides? I don't know. You are related to two of those people. So, oh, do I get one? I never remember to take my cell phone. Thank you, Brooklyn. A little handout for you to jot some notes down if you would like, but feel free to turn to Nehemiah 2, working our way through that book on Sunday nights. I'm excited about that. I will say, again, next weekend is Father's Day weekend. Next Sunday night, we will not have an evening service, so you can kind of make a mental note of that. We do have our service this coming Wednesday. Excited for that, but it's a busy time of year. It's a good time of year, but a rather busy time of year. Excited for different things we get to spend some time in. And just in case there was any part of you, I doubt that there was, but just in case there was any part of anybody that was fearful that we would go to California and decide we wanted to live in the LA area, that did not happen, I can assure you. Wonderful visit. We are so grateful for our time. Ooh, that better be, I think I was even telling somebody before we left, that better be an abundantly clear call of God if he ever wants me to go live and serve in Southern California. There's some wonderful folks there. Whew. It's just city and then city, and you don't even feel like you've left one city and you're in another city, and it's just, I guess they are considered suburbs of Los Angeles, but Irvine and Anaheim, where we were for a decent amount of the trip, those are massive. I mean, those suburbs make Chambersburg seem tiny, so just amazing. They have actually apparently started a new thing in Los Angeles because of the overcrowding in the extended area, where if you have land, even just a fairly normal sized backyard, and there's room that you could fit another house, you're allowed to do that now. They've changed that, so you can, obviously quite a money-making opportunity, and an opportunity for someone else to have a nice place to stay, but my goodness, the population density, overwhelming to me. So just in case, again, I don't think anybody was wondering that, but just in case you were, now if you were hoping that we would want to go, sorry to disappoint, but we are not planning a move to Southern California, or anywhere else for that matter, I will say. But hey, excited to be in Nehemiah 2 tonight, looking at, again, this idea of how to be a part of something bigger than you. So many practical leadership and just life things in the book of Nehemiah. And again, we could look at it from several angles. He had an overwhelming job. Where we left him back in Nehemiah 1, I think that was 2 weeks ago, he is fasting, he is praying, really burdened about the fact that Jerusalem, the walls are torn down, the people are living there, many of them, but really struggling. Life is difficult, and he's heartbroken over that. And it's that love and that compassion, that desire to do something that's going to drive him on. But do you ever think it crossed his mind of, I'm a cupbearer, not a wall builder? And really, when we see Nehemiah, his profession, his job as the king's cupbearer, basically the poison tester, and again, yeah, kind of a cush job in some ways, except if there is actual poison. But apparently there wasn't. He's alive, so apparently nobody tried to poison the king and ended up poisoning Nehemiah. But he's not really in a leadership position. He's not a business leader. He's not a construction worker even. He's not a builder. But he is willing. The job is bigger than him, but wouldn't you know it? When God calls him to it, he's exactly who God chooses to use. And we will see a really an ungodly king, not any shade on him, but he's not specifically a godly king, being willing to foot the bill for much of it. I heard one estimate that half of Persia's army went with Nehemiah. Now, I don't think it was quite that much. But again, whatever he needed in wood and everything, he was allowed to get, allowed to take. And again, some amazing things. Nehemiah gets to be a part of something bigger than him because he was willing. I've always found it interesting. Again, it's kind of a physics-y thing, and I love physics. But have you ever seen a team of horses getting to pull some amazing loads? We were somewhere. I was fairly close to a really big horse sometime in the last couple of weeks. I don't even know. We've been in too many states and flown over too many others. But, you ever look at, a Clydesdale or something. They're just amazingly powerful on their own. It wasn't Disneyland we saw Big Horse? Okay, there we go. This was just one. But, it was, I don't know that it was a Clydesdale, but it was about that big. But a team of 4 horses, you would think, okay, 1 horse can pull this much. 4 would be able to pull 4 times that. But it always blows me away how much more than that it is. A team of 4 horses pulling in harmony and trust. A team that's developed the skill together. A unified team of 4 can pull upward of 60,000 to 64,000 pounds. And that's roughly 8 times the weight a single horse, the draft horse there, can pull on its own. So 8 times as much. I guess a good double at least what you would expect. You'd think maybe 4 times. And wouldn't you know it, Nehemiah and God, and the other people who do rally around, can do so much more than what Nehemiah could have ever done on his own. And it's really never us alone when we're on God's side. It's always us and God. God never calls us to somewhere He's not going. God never calls us to do something He's not behind. But really, again, the book's named Nehemiah. We're studying the life of Nehemiah. Was Nehemiah the only wall builder? Not at all. Many others do join. And have you seen that in just even history, maybe even in your own life? Someone steps up to do something big for God, and obviously God's behind them, but so are other people. It doesn't always start that way right away. Sometimes someone has to take a bold step, lead a move in faith, take that step, and then others will follow. But it's never us alone when we're on God's side. The question is, are we willing to get involved? I always think of crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land, and the priests were told to step in to the Jordan River while it was flowing, and they're getting their feet wet, probably the hem of their garments wet, and then God parts the river. I imagine that first step was pretty difficult. If God calls us to do something, now we talked about that, even this morning, of some ways to use wisdom and all there, but if God's calling us to do something, don't be scared away by the size of it or the impossibility of it. I hope we'd be willing to attempt some things, to pray about some things, to consider some things that are beyond us, so that if it's God that wants us to do them, we move forward and it's obvious that God did it, not us. I hope that's obvious out of our church. Again, easy to think of Vacation Bible School coming up, but really any Sunday, any Wednesday, whatever. I hope we're involved in some things that are beyond us. I would think we would say that the team involved or not, 5,601 books of Romans being put together, mostly by a bunch of people who had never done that before. That's beyond us. And I've done it before. I'm okay at stapling, but they didn't bring a stapler. I'm no good at any of the other jobs. I was willing, I participated, but if you didn't get a chance to see how that stitcher machine works, I hope you did. That thing, it makes its own staples every single time. There's two spools of wire. Anyway, neat things there. But again, let's be involved in some things that are beyond us. Who knows how God is going to want to use those things? Well, hey, first blank you can fill out here. I just kind of had some fun with the wording on these things, hopefully really practical. It's ready, set, go, not just go. Ready, set, go, not, you can fill in the words, just go. Nehemiah 2, starting in verse 1, we'll just read verse 1 for now. It says, "And it came to pass in the month Nisan," that's my pronunciation. I doubt that it was, there wasn't the month Ford or Chevy or, I doubt that that's correct, but that's the best I got. "In the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine," the king's cupbearer there, "and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence." And again, we'll get into the meat of the story coming and what's going to happen here, going before the king, making the request and all of that. But just right here, we see how burdened Nehemiah is. Well, again, mentioned it last week that he was fasting, he was praying. He didn't just hear about everybody in Jerusalem and say, "Oh, that's your problem." No, he really cared about the work of God, and he really cared about his fellow countrymen who were going through something hard. And I love that about Nehemiah. But also, if you're a poison checker and you've got the king's life in your hands in many ways, again, poison checkers could add poison pretty practically, right? The king has literally his trust in Nehemiah. And again, I don't think the king's always staring at him. "Okay, did you swallow? Did you really drink it? Or were you faking it?" Again, there's just a natural lot of trust. So if he's got something on his mind, your cupbearer, your poison checker's got a lot on his mind, he's sad about something, guarantee one of the first thoughts that would cross the king's mind is, "I wonder if he's sad because he's about to kill me and he doesn't want to, or he's about to be a part of a plot to assassinate me." Now we know that wasn't true, and the king does seem to have had some trust in Nehemiah. But again, Nehemiah is really burdened, really taking that, even so much so that the king can notice. I did hear one challenge. Nehemiah must have been such a generally joyful person that this individual time, maybe there were others, but in general, this individual time, that he's not outwardly just happy and joyful, stood out. I wonder what moods stand out for us. Now, again, personalities can be different. You ever see someone who just needs to calm down a little bit? They're just too happy all the time, and they can chill a little bit. I get that. And it's not a matter of having a certain personality, but I do think it's just a neat little side point that we won't spend time long on or anything here. But Nehemiah was obviously, normally, not cast down. We can think of David in the Psalms, "Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou, why is my spirit disquieted within me?" Again, we can hope in the Lord. He seems to have lived that out. So here, where he's got a reason to be sad, it stands out. But again, this idea of ready, set, go, obviously a racing thing. I do not do well on sprinting. Now, I'm not a fast runner, even if it's, 5K or a half marathon or anything, but I've never been the ready, set, go. I better, be in the right position. Or, again, I'm going to be slow off the blocks no matter what. But I love that Nehemiah isn't just, "I'm burdened, let's go." It's raining. This is a good rain. I know, I'm grateful for this. Now, you see anybody's car out there starting to spin around or, trees coming down or lightning, you let us know. But I don't think it'll be a violent storm. Should I preach until the rain slows down? Don't get too excited. If it stops in 2 minutes, I'm going to finish the thing. But no, it's all good. Anyway, sorry, I'm not focused all the time enough to just ignore the fact that it's raining. Yeah, you watered them, and there you go. That'll work. Yes, yeah. If anyone does need to make a mad dash for their car windows, we may laugh at you, but we'll send you with an umbrella too. That'll be okay. But I think it's just the illustration to me stands out in my mind of, again, it's ready, set, go, not just go. Imagine if Nehemiah had said, wow, I'm burdened about this, let's go. Skip the whole praying, fasting, considering step. Again, I think I quoted good old Davy Crockett this morning, be sure you're right, then go ahead. He's spending time. I believe it was about 4 months from chapter 1 until this event. Tracing out the month, again, Nisan or however you say it. It was about 4 months of being burdened. I'm sure he didn't fast the whole 4 months. Pretty confident of that. But he's praying. He's burdened about it. It's not just go. It's ready, set. Am I going the right way? God, is this desire from you? Is this what you want me to do? False starts are a real thing in a run, aren't they? You ever see someone who, even in the Olympics, they false start like twice and they're kicked out? They're disqualified. It's a bummer. I love the eagerness. And I mean, again, you get something like a 100-meter dash, 1/10 of a second is everything. For me, I'd be coming in so far behind, it wouldn't matter. But again, that's a real thing. So maybe we can get stirred up or we're ready to just charge ahead for God. That's a wonderful thing. But don't just go. Make sure it's ready, set, go. Consider what God has for us. Is this what I should do? Is this when I should do it? Is this how I should do it? Holy Spirit, are you the one leading me in this? Or am I running ahead of you? Burnout is also real. In a race, you ever run, even if it's, good old PE class back in school or whatever, but you ever run and maybe it's a mile, maybe less, maybe more, but you start too fast? I've done that. I've done that in some organized races with maybe 100 people or even more. I'm near the front. Look at me. And then I realize I'm about to give up halfway through and have to crawl the rest of the way. Well, burnout in life is a real thing as well. Burnout in the things of God are real if we don't count the cost. And if we don't make sure that each step we take is going to be taken with God. Now, some people will say that if you ever burn out in your Christian life and need to step back from a ministry or something, you're obviously failing. You obviously did. No, I don't agree with that. I think sometimes we need to step back. Pastor Paul Chappell is out in California there. We're about an hour away from the high desert where Lancaster Baptist Church is. And I often quote Paul Chappell. We use in my Sunday school class, we use a book from his ministry and all. Great pastor. Pastors a church that was 12 people when he started, and now it's, I don't remember how many thousand, multiple services, and his services are always interesting if you follow him online, because it's California, it's 3 hours early, so about the time we're getting done, he's starting with his early service. It's always interesting. But last I knew, he takes a month off a year. Now, I'm not pushing for that for me, don't get me wrong, but he does almost like a sabbatical every single year. Now, he guest speaks different places during that time. He plans sermon series. He does a lot of ministry, but he'll get away. He'll get out of town. Not for the whole month, but, he's away from the office, away from being, really away from being the active pastor, the active shepherd. Now, again, large church, large staff, a little more practical. His son, I believe his son was just named co-pastor. So now it's the pastor's chapel. They're both on equal footing there, and I imagine as Paul Chappell gets toward retirement, the idea is probably for the son to become the lead pastor if that's what God has. It's a unique situation, but he'll take that step back and make sure, okay, God, is my relationship with you right? I'm thinking about preaching on this. God, what do you have for me there? I think it stopped raining. I'm going to keep preaching. All right, but I don't even know what it's doing out there. But again, ready, set, go. 4 months. Do you think that was an easy 4 months or a hard 4 months for Nehemiah? I would think hard. I hate waiting. We waited in a few lines. Not too bad at Disneyland or anything there, but I hate waiting. Our tickets included some lightning lane things where we got to skip the lines on certain rides. And again, lines weren't too bad, but I hate waiting. I love a couple of quotes about this point. One says, when we wait on the Lord in prayer, we're not wasting our time, we are investing it. Those 4 months, I think God did more in Nehemiah's heart for for all of the preparation. Another quote, if God is calling you to go, he is equally calling you to prepare. Again, it's not just about getting so fired up we'll obey. It's also about following God step by step beforehand. So maybe you'd like to lead people to the Lord. Develop a strategy. No, I don't mean something weird. The Bible tells us the gospel. But again, read through a gospel tract. Have one ready. Some of you carry things along. Yeah, make a plan. Maybe you want to teach the Bible more. Well, how's your relationship with God? Maybe you want to work with kids or disciple men as a man, disciple women as a woman, be a better husband, a better wife, a better Christian. Take those steps. Ready, set, go. Well, the next blank, and we won't spend that long on every verse, I promise. But don't let obstacles stop you from following God. Don't let obstacles stop you from following God. I'll start reading in verse 2. Wherefore the king said unto me, why is thy countenance sad? So the king's saying, hey, why are you sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was sore afraid and said unto the king, let the king live forever. Hey, I'm not after your life here. You live a long, long life. Why should not my countenance be sad when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? So he tries to assure him, hey, this isn't, I'm not sad because of some plot against you. O king, live forever. Common statement back then in that region. But also, he shares the burden. But I'm sure he realized the king could have said, so what? The king could have said, that's not my problem. The king could have said, that's not where your focus needs to be in. Nehemiah, I believe, was prepared to face obstacles. We'll see much about that in the coming points and the rest of the book. But we need to prepare to face obstacles. He was willing to tell the king and see what the king does. Now, the king's going to open a lot of doors. The king's going to let him go, help provide. But right away, even before we get to Sanballat and Tobiah or whatever, Nehemiah is having to face some obstacles to this. Having to, prayed up, just okay. God, I'm going to bring this up to the king and going for that. And we'll talk more about prayer in the next point. But just a couple of running illustrations. I don't know why, but this kind of stood out with obstacles. Imagine a track runner being in shape, trained, basically ready to run, except they entered a hurdles race and they never practiced jumping over hurdles. You ever jump hurdles on a track? I don't think I've ever even attempted it. Y'all know me. I'm a little clumsy. That would not go well. I get nervous if I see someone on like a tennis court trying to jump the net there, because if you just get all but your last little toe across, you might be tumbling. I think that would be me. But imagine they've never practiced hurdles. They're in shape. They could sprint. They could do it. First obstacle is probably going to end them, right? Well, let's not be that way in our service of God. Let's realize there are going to be obstacles. We talked a ton about that this morning. There will be problems. That doesn't have to end us. But did Nehemiah face a single problem alone? No. I think a track runner would be not doing very well if they said, okay, God, I'm going to run and run and run, but never practice hurdles. You just pull me over the hurdles. I doubt that God would answer that request. He could. That'd be amazing to see run, and just, legs just keep moving in the air, the same motion. God just got to magically pick them up. Not normally how it works. Let's prepare in our relationship with the Lord that we are going to face obstacles, and that's okay. We don't need to let them stop us. We need to keep following God. And then next, make prayer automatic and normal. Probably a lot of other words we could put there as well. Feel free. But let's make prayer automatic and normal. Verse 4, then the king said unto me, for what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. Again, we've talked about this a lot, but do you think Nehemiah had time to fall to his knees? That actually wasn't a common prayer posture back then, but to fall to his knees and have a little prayer service? I imagine this was about a 12-second prayer at the most. Probably just what I like to call, again, a breath prayer. But he was in that spirit of prayer. So he could just, okay, God, now's the time. Please help. Please give me the words to say, whatever it was. Probably just in his heart. Probably not changing his face much at all as he said it. But I love that prayer was automatic, and it had become a lifestyle, a habit. It had become normal. For you, for me, is prayer our first response when we run up against something, or is it our last resort? Prayer should be our first response, not our last resort. Okay, I've tried everything else. God, help me. Let me pray. No, that should be as natural as breathing. It needs to become natural, automatic, and normal. Again, if we pray without ceasing, we're constantly in that spirit of prayer. It'll become more automatic and normal. Verse 5, and I said unto the king, if it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, almost sounds like Esther there, doesn't he? If thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. I love that Nehemiah has favor with the king. Obviously, God's at work, but I think Nehemiah could base his request on his work ethic. He's about to ask his boss for something huge, and his work ethic had earned him some favor. So that's not the main point. Main point's about prayer there. But I think Nehemiah does set a great example of, again, this morning I mentioned Christians should be among the best citizens on earth. Let's be doing the right things, having that character. So when we run into, well, my faith says I need to do this, the boss may not want it to be exactly that way. Let's be that good of an employee. I often talk about, again, Pastor John Tilley, our pastor in Virginia. He was not a pastor. This was years ago. He was working at, I don't remember if it was a sawmill or something. And he was always willing to work overtime, work whatever hours. I think he was single. So, I mean, no family to get home to. He didn't mind working the long hours. And one Sunday, I guess probably Friday or Saturday, the boss said, hey, we need you to all to stay, come back tomorrow and work on a Sunday. We know you like the hours, so there shouldn't be a problem. He said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I've got church to go to. And because he was such a hard worker, the boss didn't bat an eyelash, said, okay, we'll see you Monday. He came back Monday, and you can guarantee he was working extra hard. And then, I guess a little while later, maybe a few weeks, it was a Wednesday. Hey, I need everybody to stay, all evening, work extra hard here, work extra long, pick up some extra hours here on a Wednesday. He said, hey, boss, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have church tonight. Apparently, the boss looked at him and said, Wednesday too? Anyway, but because of his work ethic, and obviously God involved there, but his work ethic earned him the favor with the boss. The boss said, okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning. I don't know that any other employee got such a break, but he was earning it every day. I think Nehemiah did some of that as well. Well, the next point, I'd love to give credit to whoever first said this quote. It's a good one. I don't know who said it first, but expect great things from God, attempt great things for God. So attempt is your blank there, but expect great things from God, attempt great things for God. I think Nehemiah embodies that. Verse 6, and the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, for how long shall thy journey be? I love that. It's not, well, I don't know. It's okay, how long do you need to go? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, if it please the king, let letters be given to me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come into Judah. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertaineth to the house, for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. So he's grateful to the king, but he realizes it was God doing that. Verse 9. Then I came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. Kind of reminds me of Proverbs 16, verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him. Now, I don't think Nehemiah has really run up against an enemy, but couldn't he have? These governors could have been like, I don't care, the king's a long ways away, get over it. We'll give you a little bit. No, there was cooperation there. I know some legal requirement, but even the king, again, could have become an enemy, could have become someone who doubted that. And I love how Nehemiah expected great things from God, was willing to attempt great things for God. Hey, before we move on, though, I think it's important to note Daniel 9:25. I might have even read this a couple weeks ago. Daniel 9:25 says, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandments to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem, so what we're looking at right here, unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous time. An amazing prophecy that we're seeing the beginning of that time frame of when Messiah would come. Scholars have studied it out. One scholar believes they have it to the day. of when this happened and to the day that Jesus is preaching in the temple, saying that he is the bread of life, saying that he is the light of the world. And so they would see Messiah come. Just amazing the prophecies that are there. But can't pass up the opportunity to tell one of my favorite sermon jokes. I have jokes I'll tell anytime, and I've told this one several times before, so sorry. But I just think we see this happening. Artaxerxes is not a Christian man. Persia, not a Christian kingdom, not a godly kingdom. And yet they're paying the bills for Nehemiah to go. That was the old widow woman who was just very godly, but out of food, out of money, goes onto her porch and says, God, please provide some groceries. I'm hungry. I need something to eat. Please provide. And she goes back inside. Well, her atheist neighbor, who had often mocked her faith, overheard the conversation. And he went out and said, I'll prove her wrong. And he went out and got her a bunch of groceries in bags. When she wasn't looking, sneaked them onto the porch, put them there, waited in the bushes for her to come out. And she came out, and as he knew she would, she said, thank you, God. You provided these groceries. This is amazing. Well, he jumped out and said, ha, I gotcha. Your God didn't provide those. I did. Your God isn't even real. I provided those. And she said, God, thank you for not only providing these groceries, but for making the devil pay for them. Again, little extreme for what's going on here. This was, in the joke, it's kind of an obnoxious atheist, I guess. But here, I'm not trying to say that Artaxerxes was the devil or anything like that. But again, the world system not only allowing Nehemiah to go, but paying for it. That's amazing. Expect great things from God. As he leads us, attempt great things for God. And then next, inspect what you expect. It wasn't on purpose to use the word expect in 2 points in a row, but inspect what you expect. I'll tell you where I got that from. That was something that was pounded into us as education majors. Jen, do you remember hearing that 1,005 times at PCC? It's okay if you don't. I latched onto specific wording because I like specific wording. I really do. But they were telling us, hey, when you're teachers, you assign homework, you better inspect it. You expect your students to do this, and maybe you have to leave the room, or you have to work on something else. Well, you better inspect what you expect them to do, or else students won't always do this. I love how we see Nehemiah inspecting the walls, looking for the lay of the land, inspecting what he is expected to be a part of, inspecting what he expects God to do. Verse 10, when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. A lot of things I could say there, but Pastor Kurt Skelly puts it this way. How self-centered do you have to be grieved when someone else wants to help somebody else? I mean, again, these are some sick guys here. It's a weak mind that wants to succeed through the failure of others. Now, we'll come back to them in just a little bit, right near the end of the chapter. But moving on to verse 11 for now. Nehemiah says, so I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days, and I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by the night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, and to the dung port, and viewed the wall of Jerusalem, which were broken down, walls of Jerusalem which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. Then I went on to the gate of the fountain, and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass. Again, walls, gates, so broken down he can't even ride a mule or a horse or whatever he's riding to go under that. Verse 15, then went I up in the night by the brook and viewed the wall, and turned back and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. And the rulers knew not whither I went or what I did, neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Now he's about to do that. But I love the scouting trip. I love that he does his homework. The expression is, fools rush in where angels fear to trod. He prayed for 4 months. He's seeking God's will. I imagine he's praying while viewing the walls. It doesn't say that. I don't want to assume. But he's willing to do his homework. He's willing to inspect what he expects. He's got great leadership. And the good old expression is an ounce of prevention. Actually, I want you guys to complete this. I've heard 2 different versions. I'm curious what you would say if you know the expression. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I always thought it was care. I don't know. So a pound of cure. I'm outnumbered. That's what actually Pastor Kurt Skelly, who I heard commenting on this passage, what he said as well. So apparently I just had it wrong. I took the U in cure and rounded over the top and made it care. I don't know. But yeah, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. He's taking his time. He's inspecting things. You notice how he's trying to be wise in everything he does. And it's not that he's trying to keep things secret. He's about to tell people. He needs their help and their involvement, and he wants their help and their involvement. But it's really between him and God, first of all. I love that. Well, next, we and us. Big long blanks for two little words. We and us are good words for us all. We and us are good words for us all. I think you'll see what I mean in verses 17 and 18. Verse 17, then said I unto them, ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come, and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. And I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. We, us. I think some good examples of leadership. Again, Nehemiah could have said, well, hey, the king sent me. Here's what y'all are going to do. Here's the work you're going to do. I often put it that if there's anything in church ministry that I become too good to do, I don't know that I belong in church ministry. I commented this morning that if I, as pastor, try to do everything, nothing's going to work right. But if I'm too good to clean a toilet, that's a bad sign. Now, I'm grateful that every Saturday a gentleman cleans, and I don't have to clean toilets, every Saturday. Again, that'd just be one more thing, and I don't really enjoy cleaning toilets. I don't mind that not being part of my job. But again, if something needs done and I should be willing to do it, I hope we'd all be that kind. It kind of gets put into a pretty good way in the picture that I think Jen can put up for us. I've seen slightly different versions of that, but a boss can be one who says, y'all, yeah, you. I said y'all. He's almost saying, yeah, get up, pull me on this. A leader is there out in front pulling on these things. And if you know what Nehemiah is going to do throughout the rest of this project, isn't that him? Isn't he a leader? Already, I think we see that. I hope we will be a we and us mindset. If God's doing something, we get to be involved in that. I hope we'd be looking forward to helping others be involved in what God is doing as well. That doesn't mean passing the buck, but it can mean, again, leading, getting down into the dirt if needed, and leading the way. I hope we'd all have that kind of mindset. And then lastly, again, probably had some fun on the wording here, but it is ridiculous to let ridicule stop us from following God. Again, ironic use of the words ridiculous and ridicule, perhaps. I don't know. Makes sense to me. But it is ridiculous to let ridicule stop us from following God. We'll see the ridicule starting here, verse 19. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, what is this thing that you do? Will you rebel against the king? Again, that's not at all true. Not at all what they were doing. Pretty ridiculous statement. But doesn't Satan often start trying to trip us up by having people make fun of us? And doesn't a person laughing at us sometimes get more attention than what it deserves, what that person deserves? Again, who cares what those three people said? He knew God was behind him. He knew the king was behind him. And I love verse 20. He says, then answered I them and said unto them, the God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. Again, he knew God would do it. He was on the winning side. He didn't really care about the opinions of those other three. We talked about how there will be problems as a church grows. There will be problems as we just try to have the word of God go forward. A lot of times those problems, even in our individual lives, are people making fun of us. Yeah, you're going to do that? I told you about John Yates, the guy who I had the privilege of studying under in Faith Bible Institute, those online video courses, that he told his dad one time that he was called to be a pastor. And his dad looked at him and said, I think all preachers are nuts, and I think you've joined the club. Immediately from his own father, just ridicule, just making fun of him. And so often it can be that where a close friend, whatever, I was listening to one commentator who said a rather similar story. He was working a rather successful job, nothing wrong with the job. He was in sales and, making some good money. I think it was actually at a bank, so making some pretty good money. And he came in and turned in his notice, however long it was, did it right, and said, "Hey, boss, I'm feeling called to go study to be a preacher." And apparently he got laughed out of the building by all of his friends, that so-called, that were his coworkers, just for wanting to go and preach God's word. When I was listening to that, he had been a preacher for a long, long time. So he, again, didn't listen to them. He listened to God. But at the same time, he admitted to being tempted, say, a couple days later, to say, "Okay, I made a mistake. I want to come back. Can I have my job back? Can I join with you and be one of you guys again?" Let's trust that ridicule should never stop us from following God. Those things can feel bigger in the moment than they really are, can't they? I love Luke 7:35. It's in red in your Bible if you have a red letter Bible. Jesus says, "But wisdom is justified of all her children." And that can sound strange, but children there is what comes from wisdom. Living for Jesus doesn't always make sense to people. Won't always make sense to us. And it doesn't always work out super well in the short term. But it will be working out well in the end. Nehemiah is going to see that in a big way. Sometimes we need to play the long game, so to speak. We need to realize that each battle is not the war. Does it seem like Christians are losing some battles right now? Even Nehemiah, losing a little battle. It's not anything huge, but he's being, again, laughed off there. He blows it off. We don't have to convince other people that we are right. We need to be convinced that God knows that we're doing what is right. It really is never us alone when we're on God's side. The question is, are we willing to get involved? Let's close this time out with a word of prayer. We'll do a little bit more singing. God, we thank you for involving us in your work. I doubt that it'll ever look for any of us exactly like it looked for Nehemiah there. But you call us to big things. You call us to things that seem small. And if we'll just faithfully follow you, we'll see just how much you wanted to do through those. May we be willing to prayerfully consider anything we think you're calling us to do. Maybe that'll be for months like it was for Nehemiah. Maybe a short-term thing. Maybe it's something big on our hearts right now. Maybe it's something small. May we prayerfully consider what you have for us. May we expect great things from you as we follow your plan and your leading. May we attempt great things for you. I pray that we'll be a people who does that. We'll be a church that does that. And we'll be a church that sees you at work in some amazing ways. Thank you for how you used Nehemiah. Thank you for his example of leadership and example of just close relationship with you. Thank you for his example of trusting you and not worrying about people that were making fun of him and the project. May we stay that focused on you as well. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, as we kind of wrap this part up, let's sing the song, "The Everlasting Love of God."